Question 1. Scenario. Sarah is the quality manager at a medical device manufacturing company. Recently, the company implemented a new design change in one of its products. However, during the production stage, the quality control team identified several nonconformities related to the new design. Sarah's task is to ensure the nonconformities are appropriately addressed and prevent recurrence. According to 21 CFR Part 820, what should Sarah do to ensure compliance? A. Immediately initiate a corrective action and document it in the design history file DHF. B. Document the nonconformities and proceed with production until the next scheduled audit. C. Identify the root cause of the nonconformity, implement corrective actions, and evaluate if preventive actions are necessary. D. Ignore the issue as it is not critical as long as the nonconformities do not affect patient safety. Answer. C. Identify the root cause of the nonconformity, implement corrective actions, and evaluate if preventive actions are necessary. Explanation. Under 21 CFR Part 820, specifically in the corrective and preventive action (CUPA) section, when nonconformities are identified, manufacturers must address the root causes of the problem and ensure corrective and preventive actions are taken to avoid recurrence. The CUPA involves identifying the root cause, implementing corrective actions, and evaluating the effectiveness of these actions. Additionally, preventive measures should be considered to mitigate any future risks. Sarah cannot proceed with production until the nonconformities are resolved, and documentation must reflect these actions, for example, in the DHF. The other options do not fully comply with the regulatory requirements for addressing nonconformities and documentation. Question 2. What is the primary purpose of maintaining a design history file DHF according to 21 CFR Part 820? A. To document the design changes made during product development. B. To maintain records of all manufacturing processes and quality control activities. C. To ensure traceability of the device components from the design phase to the final product. D. To store all customer complaints and feedback received post-market. Answer A. To document the design changes made during product development. Explanation. The design history file DHF, a critical element within 21 CFR Part 820 as it ensures that a medical device has been designed in accordance with the approved design plan. The primary purpose of the DHF is to maintain a comprehensive record of the design and development process, including design inputs, outputs, validation, and changes made throughout the process. This ensures compliance with the regulation and provides documentation for FDA inspections. The DHF should reflect design history from initial conception to final approval, as well as any changes made during development. The other options do not fully align with the purpose of the DHF under the FDOS Quality System Regulation (SR). Question 3. Scenario. John, a procurement officer at a medical device company, is responsible for selecting new suppliers for critical components that will be used in manufacturing a new product. The company needs to ensure that the components meet all necessary regulatory standards before they are used in production. John is reviewing potential suppliers, but he is uncertain about how to evaluate their compliance with the necessary standards. Should John do to ensure that the suppliers meet the requirements under 21 CFR Part 820? A. Select suppliers based solely on cost effectiveness and the ability to deliver on time. B. Perform a risk assessment of the suppliers, evaluate their quality management systems, and verify that they comply with applicable regulatory requirements. C. Trust the suppliers' self-certifications and do not require any further documentation or audits. D. Choose the suppliers with the highest market reputation without further evaluation or audit. Answer. B. Perform a risk assessment of the suppliers, evaluate their quality management systems, and verify that they comply with applicable regulatory requirements. Explanation. According to 21 CFR Part 820, particularly the Purchasing Controls section, manufacturers must establish and maintain procedures to ensure that their suppliers meet all required regulatory standards. This includes evaluating the suppliers' management systems and performing regular audits to ensure they comply with the necessary regulations. John must perform a risk assessment and thoroughly evaluate potential suppliers to ensure their products and processes meet the FDOS standards. Supplier performance and quality must be continuously monitored, and the company must ensure proper documentation of all purchasing agreements. Simply relying on cost-effectiveness, self-certifications, reputation without proper evaluation is not compliant with FDA regulations. Question 4. Scenario. Maria works as a regulatory compliance officer in a medical device manufacturing company. She has recently received a complaint about a product that is believed to have caused an adverse event. The complaint suggests that the device malfunctioned after being used in the field, leading to potential harm. Maria needs to decide how to manage this complaint in accordance with 21 CFR Part 820. Steps should Maria take to ensure compliance with FDA regulations regarding complaint handling? A. Maria should ignore the complaint as it has not been confirmed that the product caused harm. B. Maria should investigate the complaint, document the findings, and determine whether the issue could be a nonconformity. If necessary, initiate corrective and preventive actions. CUPPA. C. Maria should immediately recall the product without conducting an investigation. D. Maria should ask the customer to return the product and then assess the situation, needing to report it to the FDA. Answer. B. Maria should investigate the complaint, document the findings, and determine whether the issue could be a nonconformity. If necessary, initiate corrective and preventive actions. CUPPA. Explanation. Under 21 CFR Part 820, particularly in the complaint handling and CUPPA sections, manufacturers are required to establish procedures for handling complaints related to their medical devices. Maria must investigate complaint and determine whether it relates to a non-conforming product or a failure to meet regulatory requirements. All complaints must be documented, including the results of the investigation and any actions taken. If the complaint is confirmed to be related to a nonconformity, Maria should initiate corrective and preventive actions. CUPPA. This process includes identifying the root cause and taking appropriate corrective measures to prevent recurrence. Option is incorrect as all complaints must be addressed and not ignored. Option C is also wrong because a recall must be based on a clear risk assessment, not just an assumption. Option D is inadequate because the FDA must be notified for certain complaints involving adverse events. Question 5. What is the primary purpose of having an established change control process under 21 CFR Part 820, and how does it ensure compliance with FDA regulations? A. To control the modification of production processes without considering the impact on product quality. B. To ensure that all changes to design, process, or documentation are evaluated, approved, and documented to prevent unintended consequences that affect product quality. C. To allow rapid and approved changes that facilitate meeting production deadlines. D. To track changes in regulatory requirements but not affect the product or design. Answer. B. To ensure that all changes to design, process, or documentation are evaluated, approved, and documented to prevent unintended consequences that affect product quality. Explanation. 21 CFR Part 820 requires manufacturers to have a robust change control process in place to manage any changes to design, processes, and documents related to medical device manufacturing. The purpose of change control is to ensure that any change, whether to the product design, manufacturing processes, or related documentation, is carefully evaluated and approved before being implemented. This is crucial because changes could inadvertently affect product quality, safety, or compliance with regulatory standards. Therefore, the change control process helps prevent unintended consequences that could lead to nonconformance or regulatory violations. Option is incorrect because change control should always consider the impact on product quality. Option C is incorrect because changes must be properly reviewed and approved to avoid potential risks. Option D is also wrong because the process focuses on controlling changes that could impact product quality, not just regulatory requirements. Question 6. Scenario. David, the quality assurance manager, is tasked with ensuring that all equipment used in the production process is properly calibrated and maintained. He reviews the maintenance logs and notices that some equipment has not been calibrated within the required time frame. According to 21 CFR Part 820, how should David handle this situation to maintain regulatory compliance? A. David should ignore the missed calibration dates and proceed with production since no issues were reported with the equipment. B. David should stop production immediately and calibrate the equipment before resuming any manufacturing activities. C. David should document the missed calibration dates and implement corrective actions to ensure timely calibration in the future without stopping production. D. David should recalibrate the equipment, conduct risk assessment, and determine whether any affected products need to be reworked or recalled. Answer D. David should recalibrate the equipment, conduct a risk assessment, and determine whether any affected products need to be reworked or recalled. Explanation: 21 CFR Part 820 requires that all inspection, measuring, and test equipment used in the production of medical devices be properly calibrated and maintained. If the calibration interval is missed, manufacturers must assess the potential impact on product quality. In this case, David must ensure the equipment is recalibrated as soon as possible. He also needs to perform a risk assessment to determine whether any products produced during the period of missed calibration could be non-conforming or affected by the equipment's out-of-specification condition. If necessary, corrective actions such as reworking products or initiating a recall should be implemented. Option A is incorrect because regulatory compliance cannot be ensured by ignoring missed calibration dates. Option B is also inappropriate as it is not always necessary to stop production immediately unless there is a direct impact on product quality. Option C does not fully address the risk assessment and corrective actions required. Question 7. What is the role of management review under 21 CFR Part 820 and how should it be implemented to ensure effective quality system management? A. Management review is solely a compliance requirement that involves only reviewing audit results with no further action. B. Management review involves evaluating the effectiveness of the quality management system QMS and making decisions to improve product quality, resources, and overall system performance. C. Management review should only focus on financial performance and production efficiency, not on quality-related issues. D. Management review should only be performed once a year to meet regulatory requirements. Answer: B. Management review involves evaluating the effectiveness of the quality management system QMS and making decisions to improve product quality, resources, and overall system performance. Explanation: under 21 CFR Part 820, management is required to conduct regular reviews of the QMS to evaluate its performance and identify areas for improvement. The purpose of the management review is to assess the effectiveness of the quality system, address any resource needs, and make decisions to improve product quality and compliance. The review should include an analysis of audit results, performance metrics, COPPA effectiveness, and other key quality indicators. Management review is an ongoing process that should be done regularly, at least annually, but often more frequently depending on the risk profile, to ensure the QMS is continuously improving. Option is incorrect because management review is not limited to just reviewing audit results. It should involve broader evaluation of the entire system. Option C is wrong because the review should focus on quality and regulatory compliance. Option D is inadequate as the review process should occur more frequently based on the company's needs and the regulatory requirements. Question 8 scenario: Emily, the director of production, is overseeing a new batch of medical devices. During routine testing, the devices failed a critical performance test. Emily is aware that this issue needs to be addressed immediately to avoid compliance risks. What should Emily do according to 21 CFR Part 820's guidelines on non-conforming products? Emily should discard the failed devices and continue with the next production batch without further actions. B. Emily should segregate the failed devices, identify the root cause, and implement corrective actions to resolve the issue. C. Emily should immediately notify the FDA of the failure and initiate a recall of the entire production batch. D. Emily should proceed with production as long as the failure does not cause harm to patients. Answer: B. Emily should segregate the failed devices, identify the root cause, and implement corrective actions to resolve the issue. Explanation: under 21 CFR Part 820, non-conforming products must be identified and segregated to prevent them from entering the market. Emily must not discard the failed devices or proceed with production until the issue is resolved. She is required to identify the root cause of the failure, determine if corrective actions are necessary, and ensure that the corrective actions prevent recurrence of the problem. Corrective actions should be thoroughly documented and communicated. The FDA may be notified if the failure poses a risk to patients or if a recall is necessary, but immediate notification is not required for all types of non-conformities. Option C is only applicable if there is a broader safety concern that justifies a recall, which may not be the case in this scenario. Option D is non-compliant with the regulation, as non-conforming products cannot be used without corrective actions. Question 9. What is the purpose of maintaining a device master record DR under 21 CFR Part 820 and what should it include? A. The DSR serves as A database to track sales and inventory information for the device. B. The DSI is intended to document the design, specifications, and production processes for a specific device, ensuring consistent manufacturing and compliance. C. The DSR includes only the manufacturing steps required to assemble the device, excluding any design or testing specifications. D. The DSR is used solely, tracking customer complaints and feedback on the product's performance. Answer. B. The DI is intended to document the design, specifications, and production processes for a specific device, ensuring consistent manufacturing and compliance. Explanation. 21 CFR Part 820 mandates that manufacturers maintain a device master record DR for each medical device they produce. The DSI, a comprehensive document that includes the device's design, specific manufacturing processes, quality assurance procedures, and packaging and labeling requirements. The DSR ensures that all aspects of the device's production are consistently followed, helping to maintain regulatory compliance and product quality. It is not merely sales or customer feedback record, nor is it limited to manufacturing steps alone. The DSR is essential for ensuring that products are made according to the approved specification, and it should be kept up to date to reflect any design changes or updates. Question 10. Scenario. John, a quality control manager in a medical device company, has noticed an increase in customer complaints regarding one of the products. Upon further investigation, John finds that the complaints involved devices that were manufactured using a batch of components that were sourced from a new supplier. What steps should John take to comply with 21 CFR Part 820 and ensure the safety and quality of the products? A. John should immediately stop using the components from the new supplier, conduct an investigation to identify any issues, and document the findings. B. John should continue using the new supplier's components since there is no immediate harm identified in the complaints. C. John should issue recall of all devices using components from the new supplier without investigating the cause of the complaints. D. John should perform risk assessment. If no harm is identified, continue production without making any changes. Answer A. John should immediately stop using the components from the new supplier, conduct an investigation to identify any issues, and document the findings. Explanation. Under 21 CFR Part 820, any identified nonconformity related to product quality, including complaints, must be investigated to determine the cause. In this case, the complaints involve components from a new supplier, which could indicate potential issue with those components. John should stop using those components immediately, perform an investigation to confirm whether they are the cause of the complaints, and document all findings. If the investigation confirms that the components are at fault, corrective and preventive actions, CUPA, should be initiated. Option B is incorrect because complaints should not be ignored, even if no immediate harm is found. Option C is too drastic without confirming the cause of the complaints. Option D would be inappropriate without conducting a thorough investigation. Question 11. How should a company ensure compliance with the requirements of 21 CFR Part 820 for corrective and preventive actions, CUPA, when a nonconformity is identified during routine inspections? A. The company should fix the immediate issue and document the actions taken, but no long-term corrective action is necessary. B. The company must investigate the root cause of the nonconformity, implement corrective actions to address the cause, and assess whether preventive actions are needed to prevent recurrence. C. The company should only document the nonconformity and continue production, assuming no further issues will arise. D. The company should ignore nonconformity if it does not result in any customer complaints or adverse events. Answer. B. The company must investigate the root cause of the nonconformity, implement corrective actions to address the cause, and assess whether preventive actions are needed to prevent recurrence. Explanation. 21 CFR Part 820 requires that when a nonconformity is identified, the company must take corrective and preventive actions, CUPA. The company must investigate the root cause of the nonconformity and document the findings. Corrective actions should be implemented to fix the immediate problem, and preventive actions must be assessed to ensure that the issue does not recur in the future. Option is incomplete as it only addresses the immediate issue without addressing long-term prevention. Option C ignores the need for proper investigation and preventive actions. Option D is not compliant with regulatory requirements, as nonconformities must always be addressed. Question 12. What steps must a medical device manufacturer take to ensure that their device history record (EHR) is compliant with 21 CFR Part 820, particularly when it comes to retaining documentation of the production and inspection processes? A. The manufacturer should retain the DHR for a minimum of 1 year after the device is released for distribution. B. The manufacturer must ensure that the DHR includes complete production and inspection records, including any deviations, and retain it for the product's lifetime. C. The DHR must only contain final product test results and should be retained for no longer than 1 year. D. The DHR is optional, as the manufacturer has other documentation to support compliance. Answer. B. The manufacturer must ensure that the DHR includes complete production and inspection records, including any deviations, and retain it for the product's lifetime. Explanation. 21 CFR Part 820 requires that manufacturers maintain device history record (EHR) that documents the production and inspection processes for each batch of devices. This record must include information such as materials, production steps in process inspections, and any deviations or nonconformities, along with the corrective actions taken. The DHR must be retained for the product's lifetime to ensure traceability and regulatory compliance. Option is incorrect because the DHR must be retained for the product's lifetime, not just 1 year. Option C is insufficient because the DHR must include more than just test results. Option D is incorrect because the DHR is a regulatory requirement for medical devices. Question 13. Scenario. Sarah, a regulatory affairs manager, is reviewing the design control procedures for a new medical device that her company is developing. She needs to ensure that all regulatory requirements for design controls under 21 CFR Part 820 are met. Which of the following elements is Sarah required to include in the design control process to comply with the regulation? A. Sarah must ensure that the design input and output requirements are clearly defined, documented, and verified against user needs and regulatory requirements. B. Sarah can skip the verification and validation activities as long as the design input is reviewed and approved by senior management. C. Sarah only needs to document the design output and proceed with production without further checks or reviews. D. Sarah must implement controls only during the product launch phase, not during the initial stages of development. Answer A. Sarah must ensure that the design input and output requirements are clearly defined, documented, and verified against user needs and regulatory requirements. Explanation. Under 21 CFR Part 820, design controls are required to ensure that medical devices meet user needs and regulatory requirements. The design control process includes defining and documenting design inputs, user needs, regulatory requirements, designing outputs, product specifications, and verifying and validating those outputs to ensure the device meets the specified requirements. Sarah should ensure that all design processes are documented and verified against both regulatory and user requirements. Option B is incorrect because verification and validation are critical steps in ensuring the design meets all specifications. Option C is incorrect because proper verification and validation are required. Option D is incorrect as design controls must be implemented throughout the product development process, not just at launch. Question 14. How can a manufacturer comply with the training requirements specified in 21 CFR Part 820, particularly with respect to ensuring that personnel involved in the production of medical devices are properly trained and qualified? A. The manufacturer is only required to provide training to employees after they have been employed for more than 6 months. B. The manufacturer must ensure that personnel are trained and competent in their respective duties, and training records must be maintained and periodically reviewed for effectiveness. C. Training is optional as long as the manufacturing process is functioning correctly and no nonconformities are identified. D. Personnel must be trained only on the specific tasks they perform and do not require cross-training in other aspects of the production process. Answer. B. The manufacturer must ensure that personnel are trained and competent in their respective duties, and training records must be maintained and periodically reviewed for effectiveness. Explanation. 21 CFR Part 820 requires that all personnel involved in the production and quality assurance of medical devices are adequately trained and demonstrate competence in their roles. The training must be documented and records must be maintained for inspection. The effectiveness of the training should also be periodically reviewed to ensure that it continues to meet regulatory and operational needs. Option is incorrect because training must be provided when necessary, not after a set period. Option C is incorrect because training is a regulatory requirement, not optional. Option D is inadequate because cross-training may be necessary to ensure all personnel understand the overall production process. Question 15. Scenario: the production of a new medical device is underway and the production team has completed the assembly process. However, during the final inspection, several devices failed to meet the specified quality standards. What should the team do to comply with 21 CFR Part 820 regarding non-conforming products? A. The team should immediately release the devices for distribution since they passed the initial assembly process. B. The team should segregate the non-conforming devices, investigate the cause of the failure, and determine the necessary corrective actions. C. The team should ignore the failure as long as there is no customer complaint or adverse event. D. The team should rework the devices without investigating the root cause and continue with production. Answer: B. The team should segregate the non-conforming devices, investigate the cause of the failure, and determine the necessary corrective actions. Explanation: 21 CFR Part 820 mandates that non-conforming products must be properly identified, segregated, and investigated to determine the root cause of the non-conformity. The manufacturer is then required to take appropriate corrective actions to prevent recurrence, and if the non-conforming products need to be reworked, scrapped, or recalled. Option is incorrect because non-conforming products should not be released for distribution until their issues are addressed. Option C is incorrect because non-conformities must always be addressed even if there are no immediate complaints. Option D is also wrong because reworking the product without investigating the cause of the failure could lead to recurring issues and non-compliance. Question 16. What should a manufacturer do to ensure that they comply with the documentation requirements for labeling as outlined in 21 CFR Part 820, particularly regarding the creation and control of labeling for medical devices? A. The manufacturer must create labeling that meets regulatory requirements and ensure that it is reviewed, approved, and controlled before it is used on any product. B. The manufacturer can create labeling after the device is released as long as it meets general labeling standards. C. The manufacturer should only create labeling if a customer requests it. D. Labeling requirements are optional unless the FDA specifically requests them. Answer A. The manufacturer must create labeling that meets regulatory requirements and ensure that it is reviewed, approved, and controlled before it is used on any product. Explanation: under 21 CFR Part 820, manufacturers must ensure that all labeling for medical devices complies with regulatory requirements. This includes ensuring that the labeling is reviewed and approved before it is used, controlling the process to prevent errors, and maintaining documentation to demonstrate compliance. The labeling should be reviewed for accuracy, regulatory compliance, and alignment with the device's intended use. Option B is incorrect because labeling must be reviewed and approved before it is used, not after. Option C is incorrect because labeling must be proactively developed and controlled, not created upon request. Option D is incorrect as labeling requirements are not optional for medical devices. Question 17. How should a manufacturer handle the management of suppliers under 21 CFR Part 820 to ensure that purchased products or services do not negatively impact the quality of medical devices? A. The manufacturer should establish supplier agreements and periodically evaluate supplier performance to ensure that purchased products meet specified requirements. B. The manufacturer can rely on the supplier's own quality control measures without further verification. C. The manufacturer should only evaluate suppliers if problem arises with specific order. D. Supplier management is optional as long as the manufacturer inspects incoming product. Answer A. The manufacturer should establish supplier agreements and periodically evaluate supplier performance to ensure that purchased products meet specified requirements. Explanation: 21 CFR Part 820 requires manufacturers to establish procedures for the selection and management of suppliers to ensure that purchased products or services meet quality standards. Supplier agreements should outline quality requirements. Suppliers should be periodically evaluated to verify that they continue to meet those requirements. This helps prevent quality issues with purchased components that could affect the medical devices. Option B is incorrect because the manufacturer cannot rely solely on the supplier's quality control measures. Option C is inadequate because suppliers should be regularly evaluated, not just when problems arise. Option D is incorrect because supply management is a crucial part of ensuring product quality and regulatory compliance. Question 18 scenario. The manufacturing team at a medical device company notices a sudden drop in the yield of a specific device. The team conducts an internal review and finds that the issue could be related to changes made to a critical supplier's process which were not properly assessed. What steps should the company take to comply with 21 CFR Part 820 in this situation? A. The company should continue production while investigating the issue as no immediate harm has been identified. B. The company must stop production, conduct thorough investigation of the supplier's changes, and assess the impact on product quality, implementing corrective actions as needed. C. The company can issue recall of the products produced with the affected materials and continue production without investigation. D. The company should immediately corrective action request to the supplier without further investigation. Answer. B. The company must stop production, conduct a thorough investigation of the supplier's changes and assess the impact on product quality, implementing corrective actions as needed. Explanation. Under 21 CFR Part 820, any change in the process or materials supplied to the manufacturer must be assessed to ensure it does not adversely impact the product's quality. In this case, the company must stop production, investigate the supplier's process changes, and assess whether they have affected the product quality. Corrective actions must be implemented if necessary, and the results must be documented. Option is incorrect because production should not continue without fully understanding and addressing the cause of the quality issue. Option C is too drastic without confirming whether the defect is linked to the supplier's changes. Option D skips the necessary internal investigation. Question 19. How should a company establish and maintain its quality management system (QMS) under 21 CFR Part 820, particularly regarding the documentation of standard operating procedures (SOPs)? A. The company is required to have documented SOPs for all processes related to the manufacture and distribution of medical devices, and these SOPs should be reviewed periodically for effectiveness. B. SOPs are only necessary for high-risk processes and do not need to be reviewed unless a regulatory agency requests it. C. SOPs must only be created if problems are identified in the manufacturing process, not as a proactive measure. D. SOPs are optional as long as there is a team of experienced employees who are familiar with the processes. And so, hey, the company is required to have documented SOPs for all processes related to the manufacture and distribution of medical devices, and these SOPs should be reviewed periodically for effectiveness. Explanation. Under 21 CFR Part 820, a UMET established that includes documented procedures for all critical processes. Standard operating procedures, SOPs, must be documented and followed to compliance with regulatory requirements. These SOPs must be periodically reviewed to ensure they are still effective and applicable to the manufacturing process. Option B is incorrect because all processes, not just high-risk ones, require documented SOPs. Option C is incorrect as SOPs should be in place proactively. Option D is incorrect because SOPs are essential to ensure consistency and regulatory compliance. Question 20 scenario. A medical device company is in the process of bringing a new product to market. During the design and development phase, they encounter a problem where the product fails a design verification test. What actions must the company take to comply with 21 CFR Part 820? A. The company should ignore the failure since the product is not yet on the market. B. The company must investigate the reason for the failure, make design modifications, and retest the product to ensure it meets all specifications. C. The company can proceed to market without addressing the issue as long as the product works under normal conditions. D. The company should release the product with a warning label, but there is no need to retest the product. Answer. B. The company must investigate the reason for the failure, make design modifications, and retest the product to ensure it meets all specifications. Explanation. Under 21 CFR Part 820, the company must ensure that its medical devices meet all applicable design specifications, including design verification. If the product fails a design verification test, the company is required to investigate the root cause, failure, make necessary design modifications, and retest the product to ensure it meets all requirements. Option is incorrect because the failure must be addressed before the product can move forward. Option C is incorrect because a product cannot be released unless it meets all design specifications. Option D is insufficient because simply issuing a warning label does not address the root cause of the failure. Question 21. How should a manufacturer ensure that incoming materials and components are compliant with regulatory standards under 21 CFR Part 820? A. The manufacturer must conduct incoming inspections and tests on all materials and components, document the results, and take corrective actions for non-conformities. B. The manufacturer can accept materials and components without inspection if they are purchased from an approved supplier. C. Incoming materials do not need to be inspected if they are sourced from a trusted supplier that has been in business for more than 10 years. D. The manufacturer should rely on the supplier's certificate of analysis (COA) and does not need to perform any further testing. Answer A. The manufacturer must conduct incoming inspections and tests on all materials and components, document the results, and take corrective actions for non-conformities. Explanation. Under 21 CFR Part 820, manufacturers must inspect incoming materials and components to ensure they meet required specifications. All inspections and test results must be documented. If non-conformities are identified, corrective actions must be taken. While an approved supplier may be trusted, the manufacturer cannot rely solely on the supplier's documentation. Option B is incorrect because incoming materials must be inspected regardless of the supplier's status. Option C is incorrect because all materials, regardless of the supplier's history, must be inspected. Option D is incorrect because relying solely on the COA without independent verification is not sufficient. Question 22. What is the purpose of the corrective and preventive action (COPPA) system under 21 CFR Part 820, and how should it be implemented in a medical device company? A. The COPPA system is intended to address and correct any nonconformities, investigate their root causes, and implement corrective actions to prevent recurrence. B. The COPPA system should only be used when a major nonconformity is identified, not for minor issues. C. The COPPA system should be used only for post-market surveillance and customer complaints. D. The COPPA system is optional and only needs to be implemented if the company receives a regulatory warning letter. Answer A. The COPPA system is intended to address and correct any nonconformities, investigate their root causes, and implement corrective actions to prevent recurrence. Explanation. Under 21 CFR Part 820, a COPPA system must be established to address nonconformities and ensure that corrective actions are implemented to prevent recurrence. The system should be used for all nonconformities, whether minor or major, and should include root cause analysis, implementation of corrective actions, and verification that the actions were effective. Option B is incorrect because COPPA should be used for all nonconformities, not just major ones. Option C is incorrect because COPPA should be applied proactively across all processes, not just post-market surveillance. Option D is incorrect because the COPPA system is a mandatory requirement, not optional. Question 23. What is the required retention period for quality records under 21 CFR Part 820, and how should a medical device company manage its documentation to comply with these requirements? A. Quality records must be retained for at least 10 years from the date of manufacture of the device, and the records must be easily accessible for review. B. Quality records must be kept for a minimum of 2 years from the product's expiration date. C. Quality records do not need to be retained if they are documented in digital format. D. Quality records must be retained for 5 years from the product's release date and stored in an external facility. Answer A. Quality records must be retained for at least 10 years from the date of manufacture of the device, and the records must be easily accessible for review. Explanation. Under 21 CFR Part 820, manufacturers are required to retain quality records for a minimum of 10 years from the date of manufacture of the device. These records must be organized, controlled, and accessible for review by regulatory authorities. Option B is incorrect because the retention period is 10 years from the date of manufacture, not from the expiration date. Option C is incorrect because the format of the record does not exempt the company from retention requirements. Option D is incorrect because the retention period is 10 years, not 5 years. Question 24. How can a manufacturer ensure compliance with the traceability requirements for medical devices under 21 CFR Part 820? A. The manufacturer must establish and maintain procedures to ensure that each device is traceable from production to distribution, including serial numbers or lot codes. B. Traceability is only required for cloud and threat-edical devices and not for low-risk devices. C. The manufacturer does not need traceability if the device is a single-use product. D. The manufacturer must trace devices only after they are sold to the customer. Answer A. The manufacturer must establish and maintain procedures to ensure that each device is traceable from production to distribution, including serial numbers or lot codes. Explanation: 21 CFR Part 820 requires manufacturers to establish traceability procedures for all medical devices, regardless of classification. This ensures that each device can be traced from production through distribution using numbers or lot codes. This traceability is essential for recall management and post-market surveillance. Option B is incorrect because traceability is required for all medical devices, not just Klaumann-through devices. Option C is incorrect because traceability is required for all devices, even single-use products. Option D is incorrect because traceability should start from production, not just after the sale. Question 25. Scenario: a company is conducting design validation for a new medical device. The device is intended for use in a hospital environment, and the company is testing it under simulated use conditions. What should the company ensure in order to comply with 21 CFR Part 820? A. The company must conduct validation testing under conditions that closely mimic the actual use environment and demonstrate that the device meets user needs. B. The company can conduct validation testing in a laboratory setting as long as the device passes basic performance tests. C. The company does not need to conduct any validation testing if the device meets the minimum regulatory requirements. D. Validation testing is only after the product has been released to the market. Answer A. The company must conduct validation testing under conditions that closely mimic the actual use environment and demonstrate that the device meets user needs. Explanation: under 21 CFR Part 820, design validation must confirm that a medical device meets the intended use and user needs under actual or simulated use conditions. This helps ensure that the device performs as intended when used. Real-world environment. The validation process must include all factors that might impact its use, including operating conditions, environmental factors, and the user's interaction with the device. Option B is incorrect because lab settings alone may not accurately replicate real-world conditions. Option C is incorrect as validation is a critical step for ensuring the device meets user needs and cannot be skipped even if basic performance requirements are met. Option D is incorrect because validation must be completed before the device is released to the market, not after. Question 26. Scenario: a company is preparing to release a new medical device. They have conducted design, verification, and validation, but there have been no complaints or issues reported during the initial use. However, the company receives a report of a potential adverse event from a customer after 6 months of use. What steps should the company take to comply with 21 CFR Part 820? A. The company should immediately investigate the report, perform a root cause analysis, and implement corrective actions if necessary. B. The company can ignore the report if no issues were identified during initial use. C. The company should only address the report if it affects a large number of customers or poses a significant risk. D. The company must recall the device immediately without investigating the adverse event. Answer A. The company should immediately investigate the report, perform a root cause analysis, and implement corrective actions if necessary. Explanation: under 21 CFR Part 820, the company is required to investigate all adverse events related to its products, including complaints received from customers. The company must perform a root cause analysis to determine if the device malfunctioned or if there was another issue that the adverse event. Corrective actions must be implemented if the root cause is identified, and the company may need to report the incident to regulatory authorities. Option B is incorrect because the company must address any adverse events even if no initial issues were identified. Option C is incorrect because all adverse events must be investigated, not just those affecting many customers or posing significant risks. Option D is incorrect because a recall is not always necessary unless the issue is widespread or poses significant risk to patient safety. Question 27. What is the role of risk management in the design and development process of a medical device according to 21 CFR Part 820? A. Risk management must be integrated throughout the design and development process to ensure that risks are identified, mitigated, and controlled to acceptable levels. B. Risk management is only necessary for cloud-owned devices and not for low-risk devices. C. Risk management can be performed after the design and development process has been completed. D. Risk management should only focus on product performance and should not user safety or environmental factors. Answer A. Risk management must be integrated throughout the design and development process to ensure that risks are identified, mitigated, and controlled to acceptable levels. Explanation: 21 CFR Part 820 requires manufacturers to integrate risk management into the entire design and development process. Risk assessments must be conducted to identify potential hazards, evaluate the likelihood of harm, and appropriate mitigations to ensure that the device is safe and effective for its intended use. Option B is incorrect because risk management is required for all medical devices, not just Class O. Option C is incorrect because risk management should be part of the design and development process, not an afterthought. Option D is incorrect because risk management should consider all relevant factors, including user safety, performance, and environmental conditions. Question 28. How should a manufacturer address customer complaints under 21 CFR Part 820, and what documentation is required to ensure compliance? A. The manufacturer must establish a procedure to review, investigate, and document all customer complaints and take appropriate actions, including implementing corrective actions if necessary. B. Customer complaints can be disregarded if the manufacturer determines that the product is compliant with regulatory standards. C. Complaints must only be addressed if the product is still within its warranty period. D. Complaints should be forwarded to supplier without further investigation or documentation by the manufacturer. Answer A. The manufacturer must establish a procedure to review, investigate, and document all customer complaints and take appropriate actions, including implementing corrective actions if necessary. Explanation: under 21 CFR Part 820, manufacturers must have procedures in place to handle customer complaints, investigate the issues, and take corrective actions when necessary. The manufacturer must also document actions taken in response to complaints, including the investigation process, findings, and corrective actions. Option B is incorrect because all complaints must be addressed, regardless of the initial regulatory compliance status. Option C is incorrect because complaints should be investigated regardless of the warranty period. Option D is incorrect because the manufacturer is responsible for addressing complaints, not just forwarding them to the supplier. Question 29. What is the significance of the design history FI DHF under 21 EFR Part 820, and what should it contain? A DHF, a compilation of all design-related documents, including design plans, specifications, validation reports, and reviews, and must be maintained for the life of the device. B. The DHF is only necessary for high-risk medical devices and can be disregarded for low-risk devices. C. The DHF should only include the final design documents, not the development and validation records. D. The DHF must be kept for 3 years after the product is released to the market. Answer: a DHF is a compilation of all design-related documents, including design plans, specifications, validation reports, and reviews, and must be maintained for the life of the device. Explanation: under 21 CFR Part 820, the Design History FI DHF must document the design and development of a medical device. It includes all design inputs, design plans, verification and validation reports, reviews, and any other records related to the development process. The DHF must be maintained for the life of the device, and the file must be readily available for review by regulatory authorities. Option B is incorrect because the DHF is required for all medical devices, not just high-risk ones. Option C is incorrect because the DHF must include all documents throughout the design process, not just final design documents. Option D is incorrect because the DHF must be maintained for the entire life cycle of the device. Question 30. Scenario: a company has completed the design and development of a new medical device and is preparing for market release. During the final inspection, the device passes all quality control checks, but the company has concerns about potential long-term performance under certain environmental conditions. What steps should the company take to comply with 21 CFR Part 820 before releasing the device to the market? A. The company should conduct additional testing under simulated use conditions to verify that the device performs as expected in all intended environments. B. The company can release the device as is, as the initial inspection shows no issues. C. The company should immediately issue a warning label and release the device without additional testing. D. The company should cancel the release of the device and conduct a full redesign. Answer A. The company should conduct additional testing under simulated use conditions to verify that the device performs as expected in all intended environments. Explanation. Before releasing a device to the market, it is essential for the company to ensure that it performs effectively under all potential use conditions, including varying environmental factors. Additional testing under simulated use conditions can help verify that the device meets performance criteria. Option B is incorrect because it is important to thoroughly verify the device's performance in all relevant conditions, not just based on initial inspections. Option C is incorrect because issuing warning label without further testing does not address potential long-term performance concerns. Option D is incorrect because redesign is not necessary unless the testing shows significant issue.